Okay, so welcome to the Flutter app development course. On this course, I'm going to take you through the basics of creating a Flutter app. And we're going to be using a web-based development tool called flutterlab.io. That is in this article, which is in the link below. So if you want to find out how to make your first Flutter app, then watch this video, watch to the end, and give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And it helps the channel. Thank you. So, but I'm going to do this differently. We're going to use Chat GPT. Now, that does not mean we're going to write a load of code with Chat GPT and not understand it, but we're going to use this AI tool, this brilliant AI tool, to teach us. Chat GPT is a great teacher, and I'm going to show you how you can use it to help you understand the code that it's written and the code that you'd like to write. So let's get started. Firstly, set up your environment. So you're going to need to go and create an account with flutterlab.io. You also need an account with Chat GPT, of course. Now I pay for it, but I'm going to use the free version so that you can see that it's possible to do it for free as well. Both of these services are free. If you want to install Flutter on your computer at home, then you need to follow this guide. If you wanted to install Flutter apps onto a specific device, onto Android devices, you'll need to download Android Studio, and Xcode, or iOS devices, you need Xcode, therefore you need a Mac. So to actually make it work on the devices, that you'd need some minimum level of technology, preferably a Mac, because the Mac will be able to run Android Studio and Xcode. And that's another level which I might go into at the end, how you can deploy. Right, so basically I'm going to give you a series of prompts and it's going to generate some code, which I've also put into these articles. And then we're going to break down this code. So let's copy this prompt here and go to Chat GPT. So I'm basically asking it to show me an example of a basic Flutter app that is stateless. So in Flutter, there are two things. You can have a stateless app screen, which doesn't change, or you can have a stateful screen, which does change. So a stateful screen would be something like a page where the user interacts with it and adds things to it. Right, so it's given me this code, and this code is pretty much going to be the same code as I've got here. Let's just have a look at that. Actually, it's a little bit simpler, I believe. Because we've got we've got the material app, and so let's just copy the code that it's given you, right? And then we'll break it down. So hopefully, pause the video, whatever, create a FlutLab account, create Chat GPT account. Once you're in FlutLab, you will get basically 2 free repositories. After that, I think you have to pay a subscription. So if we click Create Project, and we're going to call this Salon app, and I'm going to name it for YouTube because I'm doing this for YouTube. So I'm going to open it up, click on it to open it up, and it will basically give you a template of a Flutter app. I'm going to select all the code and delete it, and then I'm going to paste in that code that ChatGPT has written for me, and then we're going to look into it a little bit. So after I've done that, I've basically broken down the different parts of the code, so you can read through this afterwards. It depends how you prefer to learn. Maybe you prefer to read, maybe you prefer to listen. The first thing we've got going on, well, let's have a look at this screen. What's going on? We've got a terminal down the bottom. You've got which you can write commands in. So when you want to install packages, you click on this thing called pub commands. So we'll come on to that later. If we put a new import at the top, like material, which it didn't have installed as standard, we'd have to use pub.get, and that will get any external packages, but you'll get used to that. If there's anything you don't understand, of course, you can go to ChatGPT and go, you could go, what are the different pub Flutter commands and why? The best way to learn is to ask questions, right? And Chat GPT is great at answering questions. That's not to say it's always right. You know, you need to be a bit of an expert, and if you think something's not quite right, question it, because sometimes it can get things wrong. But here you go, it's explained what all these different things mean. So flutter.pubget, which I said, this fetches install dependencies. So when we come to installing anything new, we click on that button and it will actually pull in external dependencies, but we don't have to do that. And then, yeah, so that's that. We've got a play button up here, and we can choose to run a web emulator, or I believe maybe I think these are different emulators for different devices. So let's just press play on this, and it'll start building it. So whilst it's building it, also if you look on the left hand side here, if you can see, there's a few buttons on the side. So this is a little bit like Visual Studio. In fact, I think this is Visual Studio Code, but installed on this website. Visual Studio Code is great at working in a browser. And down the side here, you've got this file thing at the top, which shows you all the files in your project. Then you've got this thing here, which is will connect your repository to your GitHub account, so your version control. Yeah, and then this is what the app looks like. So I press that play button, and then it will show me the app. I can rotate the screen that refreshes the screen, sorry. I can move it around, device size, opening tab, change the orientation. I can change the orientation of my emulator. Oops, there we go. Now it's upside down, I think. No, it's fine. Yeah, so basically all we've got is an app bar at the top, which says Salon app. So let's start looking at the code. This thing at the top in the code is an import statement. We're telling Flutter to install. If I can zoom in on that. I don't want to right. So yeah. So if you can see this, I think it's fine. We're telling it to import something called material from a package called flutter/material. Material means we want a material app, which is what we're defining here. And a material app is the Android style of layout. If we wanted an app that looked like iOS, then we could use Cupertino app. So again, to understand how to do this, create me basic stateless Cupertino app. You can get Chat GPT to create those things for you. And this will basically create you the same thing, but not for Android, but for Cupertino. And it will look slightly differently. Again, there's Control V, Control A, Control V. I'm going to save that. Now, if I press Control S and I save that, or you press that save button up here, Flutter's brilliant at doing something called hot reloading, which basically means without having to rerun the whole code and build process again, it will just reload the page and it will show the new layout. And you can see here it's showed an Apple style layout, so it looks a little bit different. It looks like as it would be on an iPhone, whereas this is how it might look on Android. So yeah, to describe the code even more. So then we've got this void main. Every program in the whole world needs to have a main function, a place to start, and then we're telling it to run the app. This is your app. So again, object-oriented programming, a class called MyApp, and we are extending something called stateless widget. If you hover over it, it will give you a description of what a stateless widget is. Basically, a widget that does not require a mutable state, a changeable state. So if something is mutable, that means you can change it. Yeah, is that correct? If it's immutable, you cannot change it. If it's mutable, you can. So it's like, it just not something that won't change, right? And they give an example here. If you hover over it, it consists entirely of well, basically, let's have a look at this. I mean, all we've got on here is a piece of text, nothing else. It just shows some text. So that's our class. And then we're saying override, and then we're overriding this widget. So every screen in Flutter is built with widgets. You can have normal code and functions as well in this class that does something, but every screen, as you'll see, will have a widget, and the widget defines the layout. It's a little bit like HTML, where you're defining, it's a markup language. You're saying, I want this button here, I want this form here, etc. And then we're going to say return material app. So we're returning an Android style app, a material app. It comes from like Google Material Design. So if you Googled Google Material Design, it will come up with Google's idea of what's called human interface guidelines, how they have designed their own design style for apps and for websites and anything, and you can look it up. There's also Apple human interface guidelines. That's their guidelines for how iOS apps are meant to look, right? So, but we're doing this, and then you've got something called a scaffolding. Now there are many. If we have a little bit look later on here, so here I've got some prompts where I'm getting you to change some things. So you can go to Chat GPT if you don't feel brave enough to change the code, but it's pretty simple. You can get Chat GPT to regenerate your code. So if you want to change the text size and color, things like that. But after I have put a little discussion here of the UI widget hierarchy, right? So at the top you've got material or Cupertino apps, and then you've got a scaffolding or Cupertino scaffolding, and then inside of that you've got columns, rows, and stacks, and then inside of that you might have padding for between elements, or a container that can hold things, and your layout, and then inside of those things you've got your normal widgets like your text, images, and icons. And then, or you can have a grid view, list view, buttons. So you see things are contained within things. So this is a rough hierarchy here. You've got a body, and then inside of that body you've got columns, and like, don't worry about too much. You won't have to write any of these. You can literally query ChatGPT and tell it what you want your app to look like, and it will write the code brilliantly for you, as I'm going to show you in a minute. But just to end this discussion, so we've got a scaffolding, we've got an app bar. If I changed it to Salon, I just removed app and I press save, it will change the title. If I want to change this welcome message, so that's the app bar at the top. If I want to change this welcome message, which is a text object, which is a child of the body, and the body is in the center. If I just hover over that, it should come up with some different options. It's got this really smart center, like it come up some different options. Perhaps if I hover over that, things else I could enter. Or you can query ChatGPT about how to change that. Say you didn't want that to be in the center. So if I said top, what will happen? I'm just guessing here. I'm guessing there might be something called top, but there isn't. So I could go to ChatGPT and I could go, how do I make that not centered in the top, but in the, how do I make the text at the top? Can I change body to top instead of center? And then give it the code. You've got to give ChatGPT as much context as you can. Give it the code, ask it the question, and it should be able to come back with you and a good answer for you. And it's doing something here. It's saying to make the text appear at the top, instead of center Flutter, you can use something called a column, which you're about to come on to. So use a column and then tell it to align it at the start, at the top. Right. So the child text widget, obviously if you want to change that, welcome to my salon, and then we can just say app. I've resaved that. It will change the message. If you want to change the size, change the font size, make it a bit bigger. If you want to make it not bold but italic, are we allowed to do that? I think that's about font weighting or something, so that makes it a bit lighter. So you see here you can easily change the text and things. Right, so coming back to this, if we want to realign things in our view, so here I've got an example where I've got one row with hello world as an icon on. You need to put things in rows and columns. So here are some more prompts about querying it about these things. So when I said to it, right, I want to align the text at the top, Chat GPT came back to me with this bit of code here, which is similar to what I have, what I've put in here, I believe. Yeah, it's got a column, main axis alignment start, cross axis center. So let's just copy the code that it gave me, or it gave you, and let's put that into there. And then I'm going to save that. And what you'll see is this message being displayed at the top. So you see what's it changed? Like it's changed the way that this whole body element has been written. Basically, instead of saying top, it said column. So let's look at this picture here. So we've got a column here. You can lay things out in rows or columns, or you could have like many rows inside of a column, or many columns inside of a row. But if we're going to lay things out, the top body is going to be column. The main axis is the up and the down, and the bottom axis is the horizontal one is the cross axis. So it says cross axis alignment start. So cross axis alignment start. So you can see it's placed that. It's actually got that slightly wrong, looking at that, and this is where it comes in handy to sort of query it, because if you look here, so if you go to it's worth having a look at some of Flutter's documents, because this has a lot of information about everything to do with a layout and whatever. And so in this documentation page here, it describes what aligning widgets are. So I know from my own experience that, and from looking at this, that if we have a column layout, the cross axis is the horizontal. So if we wanted this in the center at the top, this is at the moment is putting this at the start. So it shouldn't be cross axis alignment, but it should be. So the cross-axis alignment should be in the center. If I save that now, let's see how that looks. It hasn't changed it at all. But we want this main axis alignment. So I'm going to add this in here. So cross-axis alignment center. This is what I had written here. I've got this body column, main axis alignment at the start, and then cross-axis alignment at the center. So, welcome to my Salon app. Is the text too much? Welcome. If we just don't make it say welcome, it's still aligning it over to the left. So again, right, I'm going to copy this code into Chat GPT and say this is still aligning the text to the left. I want it centered and at the top. So sometimes it gets things wrong, and if it doesn't produce what you want it to, just query it again, give it the code, and see what it comes up with. So now it's changed its mind. What does it say? Read what it tells you, right? And also, if there are things in here that you don't understand, so like if you're wondering what scaffolding means, query it about that. If you wonder what main axis alignment means or cross axis alignment, please, even though I've showed you that here, query it. So main axis on start. I apologize. If you want the text to be centered both horizontally and vertically, you can achieve that by using the column as you did, and then placing your text inside of a center widget with the column. Here's the modified code. So let's see if we replace that, what happens. Right. So what have we changed here? We've placed it within a column. Didn't we have that last time? And we said the main axis alignment, which I said here was when you have a column layout, the main axis alignment is up and down. So you want it at the top, the start, and the cross axis alignment is in the center. I'm going to change that back because I don't believe main axis. Can you see the difference here? It's good to just notice the difference so you learn. Main axis alignment start, cross axis alignment center. Well, let's have a look at the code it gave me before as well. It just had that. It just had that cross-axis alignment, so maybe that's why. And if I put that back in, this is how you learn. You learn by just playing around with things and getting the layout to change. So cross-axis alignment has failed to do that now. Reloaded. So let's copy that code in and then play. Right. So here we go. So it's the cross-axis alignment is left and right. So actually, we want that in the center, and then we want that. If we just add in this, it's saying main axis alignment start. So you see, really, you just learn by just playing around with things and then trying to understand what it's done, and then you'll learn something new. So what else has it changed? The children, it might have changed something in here. The child is the center. Yeah. So you see, what extra things it's added in is this stuff here. So we've got this column, and then we've got some children of the column. We've got some padding, and then we're laying out that text widget in a central position. So it's saying child. So it's putting a center thing around this child widget. I wonder if we did that, whether that will change things as well. There you go. So now we're centering this thing inside of we're centering inside of it. So that's the only thing it's added. As it says here, you can achieve that by using a column widget and placing your text inside of a center widget within the column. So you've got this column, you've got this main axis alignment, which is main axis alignment up and down. We're saying put it at the start, cross axis alignment left and right, put it in the center. So everything's aligned at the top in the center. And then we've got many different children. So if you see this square brackets, it's like an array, like in programming. It's going to contain many different children. So you could have many other objects in there. So why not have a go at asking Chat GPT to not only have some text, but maybe a button or something that shows an alert. That would be an interesting thing to see how it changes it. But and then we're enclosing this whole text child widget in the center. So let's go back to Chat GPT, and then I'm going to finish this in a minute. But experiment with Chat GPT. Ask it to add some buttons or maybe some images. Change the layout to instead of column to be row, seeing what that happens. If you get errors, like in the console down here, copy the errors into Chat GPT with the code, and it should be able to fix them if you tell it what you want it to do. Here I put some interesting prompts that you can use to learn about what the different elements are. What's a material app? What's a scaffolding app? What's the widget tree? And that's really how you become a better developer at anything. Anything you don't understand, you look it up and you query it. It used to be with Stack Overflow, but now it's with ChatGPT. I don't really see the difference. It's still reading other people's answers, but it's just much faster and much more efficient, and you can learn new skills. So that's the first tutorial in this, where we're getting used to very simple stateless apps. In the next tutorial, which I've linked at the bottom here, we'll create a login page, and it won't be a stateless app, it will be a stateful app, because that page is going to change. So let me just add some buttons to this, see what it comes up with. Still, it's doing a stateless widget. You can see here we've got many children now, because we've got this text thing, and then we're going to add some buttons on here, right? And then I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to Control A, Control V, replace all the code, Control S to save, and now I've got a page with my message on and two buttons that they don't do anything. But then maybe we could say, now make the button show an alert saying hello world, right? And ChatGPT will then add a piece of code in here. Here we go, this show alert dialog. That's the new thing, that when we push one of these buttons, it will call that function here. It's really not as hard, and I've looked at Flutter code for probably a lot longer than you, but once you get, I put the copied and pasted that code in there. Now if I push that button, see, now we've got an error, and it says another exception was, so I can just put that error into ChatGPT and see what material localizations were found. Material design is not available in your code. You're using alert dialog, which is a material design code inside of Cupertino, which is designed for iOS. So, right, to fix this material, so here's the modified code. Right, so it knows exactly what the error is, and I think show alert was something that you can only use, show dialog or something. So it's something that you could only use in iOS apps. So he's changed Cupertino app to material app. Yeah. So let's look at that. It's put material app. Okay, let's just trust that that works. And then you look at the code and analyze it afterwards. Press Control C. Now if I push that, okay, so there's a little problem here. Maybe we can't show. We cannot show the alert. It should be a toast. I think in Android you don't have pop-ups that come up in the middle. You have little toast messages that appear. Now that's just something I know from experience. But if you understand how Android looks and iOS looks, then you can prompt ChatGPT to generate the right thing for you. So here's the modified code. What have we got here? So it's added a new library, Flutter Toast. So this is where we need to use these pub commands, pub.get, and it should pull in this new library, this Flutter Toast library at the top, and it hopefully should work. Let's see. Don't know. I think it's rebuilding now because we've installed something new. So often when you have to pull in new libraries, you have to do a completely new rebuild. What's it saying? What's it saying? Again, we can put these errors into Chat GPT and it should be able to fix these things. See, here we go. I put the errors in. Now, this is something new that you'll learn. Whenever you add in a new dependency like this toast library, there's a special file here in the side here called pubspec YAML, right? And that is just something that ChatGPT can tell you everything about. Here, look, it's told you. You need to open that pubspec YAML under dependencies. You need to put copy this bit of code into here. So I'm going to replace dependencies in this pubspec YAML with that. Now, if I save it, it should have that new library installed and it should be able to run as I want it to. And just to prove that, I'll let that reload and then I'm going to end this and then you can have a go at creating apps, creating different layouts and getting used to how the different things work. Make some notes on that and I'll come around, if I'm in, you're in a class with me, and I'll come around and chat with you about it. Right, so it's reloading now. It's completely reloading. Whenever you add a new package, as I said, you've got to reload it. Fingers crossed. There we go. It's done a little toast message at the top that said "Hello World." So yeah, happy learning.